All right, we have our samples. Let's do some spinning. So I'm going to charge my leader. And I'm going to use some blue to divide my different preps. This is some blue BFL I dyed and coned. So I'm just going to take a little chunk of this and start off. I really got to put new leaders on all my bobbins. All right, so we're just going to start off with a chunk of BFL. So we're going to start with rollags. So get that joined on. I do have a lot of uptake on that. All right, let's see how this goes. It actually drafts pretty nice. I do have just a smidge too much uptake though. And I'm probably gonna need a lot more twist because this is really springy. Let's have a look. We need a lot more twist in that because it is very, very springy. I kind of like it. All right, so if you have a pigtail and you can't get it to unwind, so you can see here it's hit a spot where it's just bunching up, grab the end of your pigtail, pull down, which releases the pressure, and then you can pull it out. Don't be afraid of pigtails. So I'm going to increase my twist. And go back to this. Okay, I'm not sitting right in this chair. I need my cushion. I'll be right back. All right, that's much better. Because I'm so short, if I sit on a chair without a cushion behind me, my legs aren't long enough to comfortably pedal, treadle, whatever you want to call it. So in a rollag prep, it does have enough tooth, like grip in the fiber, to draft nicely. I could spin it super fine, but it just kind of wants to be sort of a mid-range, not super fine, not really thick. So it'll probably come out a sock fingering weight kind of deal. And what is going on with my bobbin? It's making some weird noises. So I have 3 rollags here to spin. And then we'll switch to the next prep. Does draft really nicely in rollag form. It's not super slippery, so it's not running away from me. And there is debris falling out as I'm spinning. I can see it on my skirt, although you probably can't see it on camera. There is still some small debris falling out, which it's nice to know it will fall out when you're spinning. So you don't need to be quite as careful as I thought you had to be. Now the goal here is just to make samples big enough to do a quick swatch. So that's 2 rollags. We have 1 more to go. Right, so those were our rollags. I'm going to spin some more blue BFL in there to designate that that's the end of the rollags. Next, we are going to do some little nests of combed top. Oh, can you hear that? Bobo's chirping. How did I manage to get a knot in that? Damn, I'm good. But that tells you how the crimp holds it together. You can actually tie the roving in a knot. That's pretty impressive. All right, here we go. So as a roving, it does like to spin a little thin, but not crazy thin like thread. It's actually a nice draft. Has a bit of tooth to it. I say tooth, I mean like grip. Like you can feel it hugging to the other fibers. I don't know of another way to describe it. You can just feel it, and you know when you feel it. It's not slippery. It's holding on to each other. It makes for a nice, easy draft. Hold on, there's a little piece of veggie matter. I'm just going to pluck that out. And this has crazy spring in it. I can just feel it even in the spinning that it's it's just got spring. And again, you can see the debris falling out as I'm spinning. So it's not as grippy on the little bits as I thought it was going to be. And oh my goodness, in this roving form, it's just holding to itself so good. You could probably straight up knit with just the comb top and it would be brilliant. Because it'll knot up on itself and resist a knotting. It's crazy. It's so springy and grippy, but it feels relatively soft. I don't know if it's going to end up next to the skin, but it is really soft for what it is, for what I expected, not what it is, what I expected. Now, I do have a couple little neps in there just from me getting the roving all tangled up and knotted. That's user error, not fleece problems. Now, I don't think I was adding enough twist, so I'm adding a little bit more now by sitting back and using a short forward draw. So that way this section has more time to get twist before it goes on to the bobbin. Because it's so springy. I can't, it's crazy springy. Let's just do a ply back sample and see how we're doing. That's much better. You're not going to get a crisp stitch definition with this because it's too springy. But it is lovely nonetheless. to spinning. So I will sit back and use a short forward draw so it has more time to get twist before it goes onto the bobbin. It's also nice and relaxing. I am binging Criminal Minds again, so I could just sit back, watch Criminal Minds, have a nice relaxing spin. The spring in this is crazy. You can feel it as you're adding twist to it. You can actually feel it almost resisting that twist. It just wants to spring back so badly. It's lovely. I can see why it would make a very resilient yarn. It's a little nip there. I'll just pop that out. All right. So that's the end of our comb top. I'm going to add a little bit of blue. And then we have our flicked locks. And I need some coffee. All right. We're going to spin from the tips just for fun. I think I usually spin from the butt, but I want to try something different. Okay. Spinning from the lock, it wants to go super thin. So I'm going to kind of force it to go a little thicker. And I think I'm also going to go from the butts because it feels like it's bunching up when I'm spinning from the tips, like it's resisting drafting. Yeah, spinning from the butts is better. Butt spinning. You can say the cut end if you prefer. But I'm a 12-year-old boy and butt makes me laugh. So we'll flip those around and there we go. I mean, I'm not really a 12-year-old boy. I just act like one. Farts are the most hilarious thing to me. And I will never be too old to enjoy a good fart joke. Now, I didn't prep that much fiber because I just want to do some sampling, but it's amazing the amount you get, the amount of yardage you get just from this little bit. Like I washed maybe 100 grams and I haven't even hardly touched it. So 100 grams is a little less than 4 ounces. And I didn't weigh it after washing. I'm sorry. But it's not a super greasy fleece. So I wouldn't imagine you'd lose much weight from lanolin, but probably a lot in the sand because this kind of springy crimp seems to hold on to every little piece of dirt it ever encounters. And after all, we are dealing with living animals. They go out, they get dirty, they play in the mud, they're in the weather. We can't expect them to be pristine. And coating sheep has its own issues. So coating them is not always the right answer either. All right, so that's it for our flicked locks. So just going to spin in a little bit of blue to designate the end of that. And then we're just going to make a quick cloud and do a little sample of that too. there's designated end. I'm going to need both hands, so we'll set that there. Just going to grab a little handful and fluff it up. So I have not combed, picked, nothing. I just grabbed a chunk of fleece. I'm just going to pick it open and we'll spin right from that. Debris and all. Some of it's falling out as we're picking. Smells good. Unicorn Power Scour. Actually like the smell of it. I just got a new jug too. Cost me, I think it was like $150, $160 for the gallon jug, but that will last me for years. So well worth the money. All right. There's a bit of debris right there. I'm just going to pluck that out. And we're going to spin from just some picked blocks. So this is going to be very rustic. It's not organized in any way. If there's any second cuts, neps, or noils, they're all just going into it. This is a very rustic prep. But if you take a little time while you're drafting, you can even it out some. And it does save you the processing step. Okay, there's a big bit of debris. I'm going to pick that out. Okay, so now I'm just doing like a woolen spin on my picked blocks. So I'm letting it catch all that fiber. Now I'm going to double draft it to get those lumps out. Let's look at some debris. Oh, did Bobo actually step in frame this time? Hold on, I have to pet the Bobo. Hello, Bobo. Hello, baby. Oh, could you just not nuzzle the tripod, please, buddy? I think he's thinking about attacking me. I see him sitting beside me and all I see is ears and eyes, which is generally I'm about to attack kind of pose. So I would not recommend spinning this from picked blocks. It is not at all smooth. It tends to bunch up, make neppy noils, and hold on to that debris. So I don't think that's the ideal prep for this particular fleece. Absolutely do what you want. If you want a really rustic looking yarn, absolutely do it. But if you're looking for something smoother, this is not the preparation for this fleece. As with all things, you can do it. Absolutely. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. Don't let anybody tell you it's wrong to spin it this way, because it's not. You can spin it any way you want. I'm just saying it's probably not the ideal way to do it. It just resists. It just clumps. It doesn't want to spread out and draft. All right. So I'm just going to spin a bit of blue on the end just to give us like a leader. That was Bobo headbutting the tripod because he's a little doofus head like that. So that's our different preps spun up. Now I'm going to reset everything to chain ply it into a bigger sample. I will be back. So let's chain ply our Clun forest. All right, first thing I have to do is lower that. So we will start with some blue BFL, which is our designator for each different prep. I know it blends in with my skirt because it's like my favorite color, but as we get to our fiber, which is white, it'll show up better. All right, so this is from Picked Locks. You can see it's a very rustic looking yarn. It's very bumpy and nappy, but it does have, oops, a lovely twist. Okay, so when your singles break while chain plying, usually what I do, open up my loop, feed that back through there, and then re-knot and go. For this one, it's not going to show up at all because it is so rustic that you won't even notice that one little bloop in there. So definitely, I think spinning from the locks on this one, or from Picked for this one, is just not the ideal prep. It does make a very chaotic, fun yarn, but I don't imagine it will wear well because of these fluffy bits. But why not? If you want to try it, try it. That's what I do. And I was very uneven in my spin on this one. Oh, here comes Bob. We heard the bobbin make noise. All right, that's our Picked Locks. So next would be our Flicked Locks. All right, here we go into Flicked Locks. Just going to increase my uptake a little bit here. All right, here is our Flicked Locks. It makes actually quite a pretty yarn. It's got way more stitch definition than I expected for something this springy. So spinning it in a worsted style with a worsted prep, which Flicked Locks is, will definitely give you some stitch definition, or some definition in the yarn, which leads to definition in the stitch. All right, so here's our blue. So we're coming into our next prep, which is going to be a combed full worsted. And here we go. It definitely likes to spin thin in a worsted prep, which is a good thing to know. All right, let's have a look. Here is a lovely little stretch right here. We're getting some excellent stitch definition, but there is a lot of spring in this. So I suspect that when we wash it, we're going to lose a lot of our length to the spring. All the processing does is it straightens out the crimp and it stretches those fibers. So when you wash them, they relax and they spring back to their natural crimp, which is why you lose length but gain width. So with a fiber like Clun Forest, if you're spinning for a particular weight of yarn or wraps per inch, you would want to make sure that you do some sampling to see how much the diameter increases when you wash it, because you could start with the fingering weight, wash it and end up with a worsted weight, because that's what happens when you reactivate that crimp, which is what is happening when you wash it or steam it. I think we're actually going to steam samples this time just for fun. They tend to dry a lot faster when we steam them, so then I can do swatches quicker. All right, so here we hit our blue again. So next will be our rollags. All right, here we go, rollags. All right, let's have a look. So you can see I wasn't really consistent in my single, but in the rollags, it does make some pretty nice definition as well. It is fluffy, as it should be with a worsted spin. I'm not having a great spinning day today. I'm looking at what I've spun and I'm like, wow, this is crap. But I don't care. It's still usable. And some days, spinning just doesn't go as smoothly as we want it to. I'm fine with that. Not every day is a smash it success. Okay, so I'm a little more consistent in this section. So let's have another look. You can see how lovely it's looking. And the spring is ridiculous. Like, this is definitely, once it's wet set, it is definitely going to change in size and structure a lot. All right, so that's our rollags. Spin off that blue, pop it off the leader, notch our end, add some extra twist, fold it back on itself and through the orifice. Now, I'm just going to use the old body knotty, as I call it, and we will just pull this off into a skein. I should have like a cool tattoo here. Been debating getting one. Oop. All right. Now this is the reason I started and ended with blue, is because I can then use that to be my ties. So there we go. There's our Clun forest spun up in different preps. We'll give that a wash and then we're going to swatch it up and see how it looks. So the worsted actually has some pretty good definition, but that I believe is going to double in size when we wet set it. Pretty sure, just judging by the amount of spring in this. because there's a lot of spring. So that's our Clun forest. Back in a bit. All right, the results are in. Here is my first Clun forest that I've ever worked with. And here is the swatch. And you can see it's a super springy yarn, like super springy. This would have a lot of memory and probably be pretty hard wearing because the crimp on this is so fine. Now, there is discoloration in this because some of the blue came out in the wash and discolored the fleece. That's not the fleece's fault. That's my handling of it. So we have, this would be rollags. You can see it makes a lovely fluffy prep, and it makes a yarn that I did make a few chunky bits in, but very nice. This is our worsted prep, and it is stunning. Look at the definition on that. And the spring, amazing. If you spun this worsted, I think it would like hold up forever. And then, actually, sorry, this is the locks. This is flicked. Flicked. That's combed. These are rollags. So you can see they're quite a bit fluffier, a lot more uneven than the flicked locks. But it makes a very nice poofy yarn, which would be very warm. And then this is picked. And even just like picking it and spinning it from the cloud, it still makes a really nice defined yarn. This would be amazingly hard wearing. Like the memory in this would be unreal. Now, I don't think, no, it's definitely not next to the Skin Soft. I'm definitely getting a exfoliation vibe on this, but it would be great for like a sweater with a collar done in a softer one, or an outdoor sweater. Hats, mitts, socks would be great in this. I imagine that they would wear forever. Yeah, look, watch. Stretch it out this way and it turns into a little tube, right? Now watch. Look at the stretch on that. That would make amazing socks, I think. So that's Clun Forest, and it is very fun to work with. Very, very fun. So if you like this, do the stuff down below, because I do stuff like this all the time. Thanks for joining me, guys. Dr. Chaos, out.